called it robotic process automation. So if you think of a bank account reconciliation, if you think of a balance sheet reconciliation, there are certain business rules behind it that you can eventually actually design AI, machine learning, a lot of that can actually end up being automated. I would say if you're kind of looking at a career in accounting, don't look at that as a threat. Don't view that as being like, oh no, there's not going to be people to do all of these, tedious accounting reconciliations. I think it's actually a huge opportunity because it means that the more interesting value add analytical side of the work, you can't turn that to a robot. You can't automate some of that. So I think it makes roles in accounting actually more rewarding and more enriching. But yeah, looking at, how do we use robots to automate simple things and repetitive things like journal entries and balance sheet reconciliations. It's definitely an area that is coming, that technology is going to enable. I think companies are at different phases of kind of exploring it, but I think it's a trend that is coming. It's a matter of when, not if it's coming. And I think it's about looking at it not as a threat to your career, but more as like, hey, this is a good thing for my career because I can do the more interesting things as a result.
Thank you. That's a great way to look at it, actually. We're constantly hearing, well, I don't know if everyone is, but at least myself, I've heard, don't pick careers that can be replaced by technology. So that's a good viewpoint to look at it as. So Lauren, would you be able to tell us the impacts of technology in accounting from your perspective?
Sure. And if you hear any noise, my dog has just come over to greet me. So I completely agree with Carolyn. It is something to embrace and not to be afraid of. It's coming and it's here. There are definitely automated processes, especially when it comes to, those postings to the ledger, reconciliations, as Carolyn mentioned. But I completely agree with her comments in that it's going to enable you as in your position to do more than you could before. You'll have more time to explore other items that maybe get pushed to the side because you have to deal with the day-to-day and, leave those day-to-day things to the robot and, you can focus on what's actually really important for that business and spend your time there.
Thank you. How about you, Tyrone? Anything you can add on about how technology impacts accounting positions, even specifically in your industry?
Yeah, I can. I graduated from university in '90. So back then, believe it or not, in Nova Scotia, there were still some companies that were maintaining manual ledgers, so written ledgers. Not too many, but there were a few. Then, of course, more and more, you saw use of computers. When I started with KPMG, it was the first portable computers were Macintosh, and they were those big square boxes that weighed a ton. And you got a printer to go with that was about the size of a small suitcase. And the whole idea was you carried one on each shoulder. But if you fell down on your back, you were like a turtle. You couldn't get up. They were so heavy. And then more and more, you saw computers become more, more commonplace. And you saw everybody was automated then. It eliminated the, I think both Carolyn and Lauren have touched this. It eliminated the kind of the more boring parts, the more manual part, the adding and subtracting parts of the job. What we're seeing today, if I look at Chorus today, we've got a couple specialty positions in the company that are in the finance group. Really, everything they do is around managing data. It's around thinking, and when you think about managing data, the really interesting part of it is you have to think about what do you want to get on the back end? What kind of information do you need to produce in the back end? Because in order to figure out what you want to collect for data on the front end, you need to think about what's on the back end. So if it's not just about I bought something and it's X dollars on this date. If you want to try to be able to slice and dice that data 88 different ways on the back end, you got to track 8 or 9 different data points on the front end. So we have full-time people who all they do is manage finance data and then use that to produce reports and information. That's a specialty position now that didn't exist 20 years ago. I think as both Lauren and Carolyn have said, there's a lot more time now spent on analysis and providing context for data. That's what turns data into information. It's the context. It's the analysis. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of numbers and letters. That's of no use to anyone. So that's where the real value add is managing the data, being able to turn it into useful information, and be able to provide context. So I think the jobs are quite rewarding actually now.